All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us on a Tuesday. That's right, the day after President's Day. Welcome back to the show. A lot to get to. As you know, there's Nevada Caucusing going on right now. All the candidates are in town. We have a debate tomorrow night. Exciting stuff, especially if you follow, you're following what's going on in the news. A lot of interesting things to discuss. And what better person to have with us on the line right now to talk about that than Congresswoman Dina Titus. Always love it when she takes some time to join us. Dina, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Well, thank you for having me.
Appreciate that.
I enjoyed being there talking to you, too.
Thank you, Congresswoman. We do appreciate that. A lot to get to in a short period of time. I want to start with talking to you about the State of the Union address. As you know, there were several Democrats that walked out right in the middle of his speech. You were one of the Congress people that decided not to show up. And can you tell us why and who replaced you?
Well, what I did was leave my guest seat empty. Every member of Congress has a guest seat. And I left it empty in memory of the people who were shot at the October 1 Music Festival right here in my district. Mm-hmm. Because we have passed in the state the background check bill. The House has passed a number of gun safety bills that are just sitting on the desk in the Senate. McConnell won't move them. And President Trump is just controlled by the NRA. He won't sign them if they did move. And I wanted to make the point once again that we need to do something to address gun violence in this country.
Yeah, and that's an honorable thing that you did, and I'm with you on that, by the way, Congresswoman. So he did mention the Second Amendment, and he didn't mention anything about all these shootings or gun violence or any legislation. All Donald Trump mentioned in the State of the Union address was, I'm going to protect the Second Amendment, and we have every Republican that's standing up, and obviously all the Democrats are sitting down. And a guy that's been on this show plenty of times, his name is Fred Gutenberg. I'm sure you know who he is. He lost his daughter in the Parkland shooting. Yeah. And when Trump mentioned the Second Amendment, he got up, he said a few things to Trump. This is a man who lost his daughter. I mean, what do you say to people like that, to people like a Fred Gutenberg and others who have lost loved ones at the hands of gun violence?
Well, every time something like that happens, they stand up on the floor of the House and say, our hearts are with you. We send our thoughts and prayers to the family. Well, thoughts and prayers just aren't enough. You also need to take action, and that's what really will get the job done, whether it's background checks or multiple ammunition magazines,
sure.
Closing the gun loophole for gun shows. All of those things can be done that are perfectly reasonable. We're not trying to take guns away from recreationists or hunters. I mean, I own a gun. I believe in the Second Amendment, but you don't need 100 clips to shoot a deer, and that's what causes so much damage.
Yeah, I agree. If you're sitting next to Mitch McConnell right now and you had a chance to talk to him about this issue, as you mentioned, all these bills that are sitting on his desk, and you hear people on the right say, well, we can't get anything done because of this impeachment sham, yet you have all these bills that are sitting on McConnell's desk. He could do something about it if he wanted to. He's not. What would you say to him right now?
Well, I'd say, get off your duff and get it done, because the people of this country want some action. All Mitch McConnell has done is pass very conservative pro-life judges. They've got a record number of judges under this administration, many of them not even approved by the American Bar Association, and they're young. They'll be there for a long time shaping policy, while you have bills like equal pay for equal work, raise the minimum wage, background checks, Dreamer legislation, all passed out of the House, just sitting there.
Considering the fact that the Second Amendment was passed in 1789, and the most powerful weapon then was the musket, and it would take about a minute to load it, and you could hit one target usually. Well, now you've got weapons like an AR-15 or a full, a semi-automatic weapon where you could, like you said, you could get off 150 clips in 20 to 30 seconds. Do you think that maybe the Second Amendment should be revisited to match modern technology?
Well, you remember that those amendments to the Constitution are not absolute. Look at the First Amendment. You have freedom of speech, but you can't stand up in a picture show and yell fire, or you can't slander another person or commit libel. So they can all be, modified to meet the changing times. That's where the strengths of our Constitution. Who would have imagined wiretap back in the days of the Founding Fathers. And you can adjust the Second Amendment just the same. It's not an absolute right. That had to do with local militia. Keeping arms grew out of the Revolutionary War. So, yes, you can revisit it through court cases without taking away the right to have a gun.
Sure.
But to limit it to reasonable circumstances.
Sure, and you use the term reasonable. You're right. I can't stand it when many of the Republican talking points are, oh, these Democrats, they're gun grabbers, when I have never spoken, Dina, to one Democrat in office that wants to take everybody's guns away. But switching topics here quickly, obviously the caucus here in Nevada, this is a big week for this state, Dina, as you know, and we have the debate that's going to be taking place tomorrow night. You've decided to put your support and your endorsement towards Joe Biden. You've said that you think he's going to do really well in this state. His campaign has struggled a little bit recently. Tell us why you've decided to support Joe Biden.
Well, if you look at my voting record, I'm as progressive as anybody. I used to be called a liberal before it became stylish to call it a progressive. But I think making progress is the way to be progressive, and that he's best positioned to make progress. He knows how government works. He can surround himself with smart people. He can go to work on day one without on-the-job training. And he's just a steady hand on the tiller. People are tired of all this drama in the White House, all this policy by tweet. One day it's one thing, one day it's the next. And also I serve on the Foreign Affairs Committee, and so I talk to people from all around the world, and they are worried about the United States losing its position of power. We're supposed to lead by example. Joe Biden is best situated to do that, too, because world leaders know and respect him. So it can kind of restore our standing in the world and return some sense of some good policy here within the country.
Do you think that Joe Biden would run under a much more bipartisan government than Donald Trump currently does?
Well, he has a long experience dealing with the Congress. He was in the Senate, and as vice president for President Obama, he was the one who was sent to the Hill to work with all of us to get the Obamacare help package passed, and also the stimulus package that helped get us out of that recession, which hit Nevada really hard.
Mm-hmm. I guess, and if you're just joining us, by the way, we're speaking with Congresswoman Dina Titus. The big question with Democrats and what they all talk about is who can we put up there on a stage with Donald Trump who has the best chance to defeat him in the election? So obviously your opinion is Joe Biden, but if it's not Joe Biden, if he's not the man up there, is there anyone else on the Democratic Party that you think would have a very good chance to defeat Donald Trump that you could see yourself backing and supporting?
Well, I think all the Democrats are head and shoulders above Donald Trump, and you can see the enthusiasm of Democrats and the high number who've been turning out for early voting in this caucus. Whoever the nominee is, and I believe it'll be Joe Biden because he can draw the sharpest contrast to Trump, and he can take him on. I mean, he's persistent. Trump's been attacking him for a year since he got in this race, and Trump risked being impeached to get a foreign power to try to do some fake investigation into him. But regardless, the party will have to come together and be united to go after Trump because even though he's so terrible, it won't be easy to get him out of office.
Yeah, let's talk about the party for a second because, as you know, listen, Bernie Sanders has said a few cheap shots in regards to Michael Bloomberg. I wanted to ask you about Bloomberg as well because he's been attacked by even many on the left for his stop and frisk policies dating back to 2013. There have been people that have been going after Buttigieg. I know Elizabeth Warren continues to go after Buttigieg about his campaign financing. I believe this is bad for the Democratic Party when they're going after one another like this. What are your thoughts?
Well, if you think about what the Democrats have said about each other, and there have been a few little sharp elbows, but nothing compared to the Republicans last time around. Remember, they were calling each other names and comparing the size of their hands, and Trump was just going crazy. So ours are more points of contrast.
Yeah.
As far as Bloomberg goes, I'm glad he's going to be on the stage here in Nevada because he's put out a lot of fancy, expensive Madison Avenue ads, but that's not the same as kind of being in the middle of it and having to defend your positions and having everybody scrutinize your whole life and your policies in business as well as in government. So it's time, if he wants to be a candidate, to step up and tell us who he is and let us see him in action.
Congressman, will you be at the debate tomorrow night? Will you be spending time with any of the candidates like Joe Biden, who you've endorsed? What are your plans over the course of the next week?
Well, I've been riding with Biden, I'll tell you. I've campaigned in Nevada for a lot of people, but never felt so strongly that I went beyond Nevada. And I've been to Iowa and New Hampshire. I was up north in Reno, Douglas County, and Carson City. I've done some events with the vice president, also with his sister, and with his wife, Jill Biden. And we'll be doing that the rest of the week. And, yes, I will be at the debate, and I'll be in the back spin room or press room, as they call it, to kind of give my take on the debate. So it's a very exciting time for Nevada to have all these candidates here and all this media attention. All eyes are on us, so we got to pull this off so we can be number one, not number three.
Riding with Biden. Did you just make that up, or is that from his campaign?
No, I made it up, and I said it with a southern accent, and that makes it rhyme better.
Uh-oh, that's malarkey. No, I'm sorry. Horrible joke. Dina, I wanted to...
I'm not using that.
No, I don't think he should either. I wanted to congratulate you as you've been elected to the co-chair of the Congressional Gaming Caucus. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and what this means for you?
Yes, I'm real excited about it. Benny Thompson has been the Democratic chair for a long time. He's from Mississippi, and they do have some riverboat gaming there. But he stepped down, and so I was elected by my fellow members to chair that caucus. And it says a lot for Las Vegas that we're there. I will respect Benny Thompson's counsel as we move forward. I'll have a Republican co-chair. Stephen Horsford is in the caucus, and he'll work with me in workforce development like he's done at that culinary training center for a long time. So it's an exciting time. A lot of gaming issues, internet gaming, sports betting. It's going to be interesting for me to try to protect gaming's interests and also be a liaison between the industry and the elected officials.
I don't think I'm going out on a limb here to say that I don't think anytime soon you'll be giving Donald Trump a gaming license in Las Vegas. Is that fair to say?
I think that's pretty fair. I don't think his background would qualify him.
That's true. Dina, we always appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on with us. Look forward to seeing you and saying hello at the debate tomorrow night. Say hello to Joe Biden for us. We had his wife on the show last week.
Good.
We would actually love to get the vice president on our show, so maybe you could put in a good word for us.
I'll sure do it. I'll look for you afterwards and give you my take on things.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. Always appreciate you and your time. Really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there you go.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
a lot, Dina.
That is Dina Titus, Congresswoman, of course, representing us here in Nevada. Does a fantastic job. She's very honest, very fair, and I appreciate her. I always appreciate her time.
Towards the end of that interview, you were starting to take on her accent. Did you realize that?
Was I really?
You were.
Well,
it was kind of exciting.
Well, yeah, I sound like Matthew McConaughey in that Samuel L. Jackson movie. I forgot the name of the movie, but yeah. Well, I like her accent, by the way.
I do too.
I do. I like it. Well, I'm voting for Joe. I like it.
Riding with Biden.
I'm
telling you, riding with Biden could be a good national campaign.
I actually agree.
That's why I was shocked when she said that.
You know what you do? You get about 20 or 30 voters of different colors, different ethnic, different nationalities, with all their different accents. I'm riding with Biden. I'm riding with Biden, and just I'm Joe Biden.
I am riding with Biden.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message. That's what you got to do. I think it would be a great ad. I haven't seen a lot of great ads by some of these candidates, by the way. I just find Tom Steyer to be dry and boring. I don't know. His ads are just boring.
Trump's video quality is top notch. You cannot deny that.
His video quality?
Yes, he has really, really impressive video on his ads.
Yeah, but the problem with watching him on TV is he gains about 80 pounds.
That's fine, but his recent ad actually had him at Daytona doing the spin around already.
Who's calling you right now during the show? I'm just curious. Who decided to call you? Can you share with us? Who doesn't know you're on the air right now? Listen, when people call me, I say who it is.
All right, that was my 83-year-old grandfather in Council Bluffs, Iowa.
83 years old. God bless him.
83-year-old grandfather just called me.
Grandpa Sharp.
Yes.
Grandpa Sharp's calling you in the middle of the show.
Old man Sharp.
You should have answered the telephone. You should have. You really should have had a conversation with. What is a conversation like with your 83-year-old grandfather? Like, what do you guys usually talk about? Do you talk about the show? Do you talk about your sports betting? You hit a royal again over the weekend, by the way.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. I
okay.
give him. I always give him my plays because his wife died 3 years ago, unexpectedly of cancer.
I'm sorry.
And so I always give him. He's kind of bored, so he works during the day with my father. They have a family business, but so I always give him my plays, whatever it is, college basketball, baseball, college football, pro football, so he can have something to watch and to, like you said, spend his time doing. And then we talk about the show. He loves what we're doing with the show. He likes the fact that we're in the process of doing some major things that we haven't really discussed about yet, but you know what we're talking about.
Well, you're a model grandson, so let's leave it at that.
I appreciate it.
You're a model grandson. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, news broke Friday morning, literally 10 minutes left to go in our show. We had learned the news that Michael Avenatti had been convicted, guilty of extortion, the Nike case, guilty of all 3 charges. Now, as you know, we're going to give a little bit of background on when we first met Michael. He's been a big part of our show. He joined us every week for about a 6-month period. And we're going to give our reactions to the guilty verdict, what I think about it, why I think he was found guilty. I also had a chance to speak with one of Michael Avenatti's attorneys last night. We had about a 25, 30-minute conversation about everything involving the case, and I'm allowed to speak about that on the air because she gave me permission to. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about where Michael Avenatti goes from here. But we're first going to be joined by a man by the name of Larry Neumeister. He is from the Associated Press, and he was in the courtroom when they read the guilty verdict. So Larry Neumeister has done a great job covering this. He's going to be joining us coming up here at the top of the hour in just a few minutes to talk about that, and then we're going to get reaction, and we will take your calls in hour number 2 as well in regards to the Michael Avenatti guilty verdict. What does it mean for Nike? What does it mean for Michael Avenatti? We'll get to all that and much, much more coming up next. You're listening to the Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.